Today feels somewhat momentous to me because I've done a lot of reviews where I knew they were going to be challenging. I've done a lot of reviews where I knew that they were going to be glowing and positive. I've done a lot of reviews where I didn't really like something, and I've done one particular review that I got a lot of flack for, man, when I said, and I still stand by this, that Studio Series 86 Hot Rod is not in any way, shape, or form a Voyager. And that brings us to today and this guy. A lot of people, after my assessment of the Studio Series 86 Hot Rod, a lot of people said, man, I can't wait to see what you think of Rodimus Prime because you're gonna tear that thing apart. Am I though? This is like the trial of Rodimus Prime. Is he really Commander class? Well, we're about to find out in the latest GotBot True review. Hey one, hey all, welcome back to the channel for what promises to be a pretty wild ride today. I, of course, am your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, man, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, light them up, baby! And hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton. It lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that is in the description down below. Also in the description down below, if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we offer to you through Teespring, or of course hit the join button right here on YouTube to become a channel member, man. And yeah, this is going to be a lot. All right, let's get a couple of things straight. I've gotten a lot of flack because I said I didn't like Studio Series 86 Hot Rod, and I honestly, I don't. I assessed him such that I think he is an extremely mediocre deluxe. Based on mass, based on the engineering, based on the feel of the materials, just based on how fun he is, based on the articulation and the limits thereof. Maybe a middle-of-the-road deluxe. Extremely average to me. There's zero about it that's Voyager. Objectively speaking, I know a lot of people will say, yes, he certainly is. No, and you know what? We're going to use him among a lot of other things. We're going to be taking a look at this guy in comparison to Jetfire and Skylynx. We're going to discuss him in comparison with my Earthrise Optimus Prime and the custom trailer that I use for him. We're going to see him with all of the Season 3 team to see how that scale works. There's a lot here that we're going to delve into to see if this guy truly is a Commander class offering. So without any further ado, let's head over to the table and get underway. Oh, buddy, this one's been a long time coming. Look, I raked the 86 Hot Rod over the coals a while ago, back in episode 825, and a lot of people got really bent out of shape. I don't care what anybody says. It is not a Voyager. Nothing about it is a Voyager. The math does not line up. If you want to lie to yourself and tell yourself it is, cool, but it is a mediocre deluxe at best. So, because I have that view, because the math doesn't line up, because 77 grams all in, even with a neat little twist of the body, because that's the one piece of engineering that that Hot Rod has that's neat. The rest of it is pretty par for the course. But like, even with that one piece of extra engineering and maybe, you know, like the pinned fingers and whatnot, it's not enough extras given to make up for the loss, for me, of half the mass. Not the weight. We're not talking about weight. We're talking about mass. There's a difference. Weight is how heavy something is. Mass is the amount of product, the amount of space that it takes up in the world. And there is a significant distinction. A lot of people, because I have that view of Hot Rod, a lot of people said, I'm going to obliterate and destroy Rodimus Prime. Am I going to do that? I think the case for this guy being a commander is far more interesting and far more complex than it was for Hot Rod being a Voyager. He's not a Voyager. That's fact. You can not like it, but that's fact. So what about Hot Rod? I think this one's going to be more exciting. I think this one's going to be more interesting. But before we can get to Hot Rod, or sorry, Rodimus Prime himself, we have to look at his packaging first. And I'm not going to lie, man, this is nice packaging. Nice Rodimus Prime in his vehicle mode over here. Rodimus Prime up here with a sword. I think that's a nod to something from IDW that I don't know. It wraps around on the side over here. Over here, your typical War for Cybertron stuff. And then all the product images on the back. Cool. I dig it. Looks nice. And here we have both Hot Rod and Rodimus Prime. Cool. I mean, this is a cool look. I get it. The Hot Rod, I mean, you know, the front of him is a little squat up and short, but yeah, this makes sense. In terms of Voyager, really what we should do is remove the trailer. Now I'm going to readjust things here just slightly for a moment. Now in essence we have a Voyager and a Voyager here. Everybody has said that this guy is a Voyager. He's the size of a Voyager, and guess what? When you look at his mass, this guy, with all of his engineering, and he has a ton of it, with all of his paint, he has a ton of it, comes in at still a very hefty, large Voyager mass of 167 grams. Traditional Voyagers are 145 to 165. This is a large Voyager. This, even with all of the accessories, even with the blast effects, is only 77 grams. That doesn't even really hardly break into a deluxe. That's why I say that the Hot Rod isn't a Voyager. I don't see the math. When you have the engineering level of this and of Cyclonus, for example, and their Voyagers, I just don't see it there. And I'm sorry if that offends you, I really am. But the math doesn't make sense. Does the math make sense for Commander here? Well, let's move away from this Hot Rod and Hot Rod-ish comparison and look at kind of Rodimus to Rodimus. Remember this turd? That thing was awful. I detested the Power of the Prime's Rodimus Prime. As a matter of fact, back in episode 348, I gave his paint and color a 7.5 because we have like a darker maroon and a red. It just didn't match. I gave his articulation a 7 because it's lacking in a lot of ways. And I gave the transformation a 5. I didn't find it fun, enjoyable. Yes, it locks in a lot of locations, but if one location pops, it all pops. It was a nice attempt at a Rodimus. I had it because I needed a Rodimus, but I immediately said, I can't wait till they redo him because I want something better than this junk. I did not like it. And now we have this guy. Now, here's where the analysis really begins to get interesting. We already know that in comparison to the Hot Rod, if you see the Hot Rod as a Voyager, well then guess what? The Voyager component of this must blow you away because it is significantly more of a Voyager in terms of paint, in terms of articulation, in terms of engineering, in terms of transformation, in terms of everything. This is a significantly bigger Voyager. So right away it kind of wins in the first comparison. What about here? The Power of the Primes, all in. He comes in at a traditional, typical, later class, 330 grams. Actually a bit higher than what's traditional, because the traditional later class is between 315 and 325 grams. This guy comes in at 330. Now, in terms of pricing, this guy was 60 bucks, basically Canadian. This guy is 120 bucks. Some places now 130 bucks Canadian. So basically double the price. Is he double the mass? That's the first thing we ask. Almost all in with all of his accessories, and this guy comes with a ton. He clocks in at 619 grams, a big hefty 619, almost double the mass of the Power of the Primes. Right away, that works in his favor for being a legitimate Commander class offering. Are there things I like about the Power of the Primes more? I do like the slightly more cohesive look to the vehicle, even though it's smaller. And I do like this more maroony type of brown that was used, or red that was used, rather than the brighter red. I feel like for Rodimus Prime, the more maroony color is more Rodimus Prime-esque. So I do like that. But yeah, 619, almost double the mass. We're talking about double the price. So is there enough extra value that it can make this guy into a legitimate commander? Well, what about the other commanders that we had? I've been saying all along that what we have now is an established valuation for what a commander class should be. Is this guy equivalent to that valuation? Well, I looked at War for Cybertron Skyfire, or Jetfire if you will, in episode 575. And without any of his accessories, he clocked in at 667 grams. More than this guy. He clocked in at 775 grams when he had all of his armor bits and stuff on him. But he had a moderate amount of engineering. Like, he had some pretty good engineering, some neat tricks to him to explore. It was an impressive offering. Then we got Skylynx. Skylynx's engineering is less than Jetfire's or Skyfire's. It is not as complex. There's a ton of molded in detail in Skylynx, and Skylynx, with all of his blast effects and everything included, Skylynx clocked in at an impressive 813 grams. I mean, he's gigantic. So, with Skylynx, they simplified the parts count, they simplified the engineering, but they gave him extra mass, and that made him a true commander. Well, if we look at kind of those assessments, both commanders so far have had more mass than this guy. But this guy is still about double the mass of a traditional leader. So, kind of the plot is thickening. We need to know what the other value is here. Where is the rest of the value being made up? If we are falling short, 100 grams of plastic or so from, maybe even 200 if you look at Skylynx, or almost 200 if you look at Skylynx, where do we get that extra value? Here with this guy. By the way, before we dive into everything Rodimus Prime, we are going to do one final comparison here. I wanted to show him next to my Earthrise Optimus Prime. I used the Second Chance trailer with my Earthrise Optimus Prime, and these guys now match up quite a lot. If you use the Earthrise trailer, then you have a much shorter trailer on Optimus. Like, he actually appears quite significantly smaller than Rodimus Prime. By way of the Second Chance trailer, these guys are pretty much the same length. See what I mean? But Rodimus's trailer is really significantly wider. Okay, let's get into the guy. First things first, what is Rodimus Prime? A lot of people have called him like Space, but they call him Space Winnebago, even though Winnebago is a brand name. It's like a camper, right? But I never really bought into that, because when have you ever seen a camper that doesn't have any windows? This doesn't have any windows. Then a lot of people said, well, it's like a mix of a sports car and like a futuristic tractor trailer. Okay, maybe. Then it was pointed out to me by, I believe it was Rodimus Primal who pointed out that GMC made a truck that looked like this, and it was supposed to be like a futuristic type of truck. You can look it up, like GMC Rodimus Prime truck, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And it's like, yeah, that's about as close in real world life as you're gonna get to what Rodimus Prime is supposed to be. One of the things that bothered me about this initially was I thought that the trailer was too big, or that this was sticking out too far, or something didn't seem right. Now, there's a couple of things that don't seem right. One, I do think the trailer might be a bit too big, but I think the whole reason that this seems like it's sticking out too far is because we have too much of a blue windshield. We're supposed to have more red come out partway over the windshield and red coming up the edge here. I think if we had that detail, I don't think this would look as off to us as fans. I think the reason a lot of us say something looks a little off about that is because we expect the roof to look, I don't know, like more filled in and less glass, if that makes any sense. Also, one thing I want to point out that really bugs me, and nobody seems to be pointing it out, is we have these blast effects, which we'll see shortly, that are able to go into numerous areas, including these ones that are like smoke blast effects that can go in up here. But like, these three aren't connected to anything. And then even if they were, when they come up, like there's a split here. I get it. You needed the split for the spoiler to go in to connect. But I don't know if there was a way to spring load little pieces, or I don't know. But like, that split really does kind of hurt the look of this to me a little bit. It's one of those things that kind of like, it grates on me, man. It really does. Not a deal breaker. It's still very impressive, but that does bug me a little bit. Now, I had been talking about extra value, and this guy has a ton of things that he comes with. Right now, all of it is on him somewhere, or in his trailer somewhere, or something. All of it. There are different ways to store different things, but there's a ton here. His blaster I have put up here, we'll see that in a bit. If we open the back here, and these little pistons, man, nice detail, little sliding pistons, but we can open that up and open this piece out, and we can begin to take out blast effect, and another blast effect, and yet another blast effect, and if we come up here and open up this piece, I think we might have another blast effect up here, kind of jammed in there. We do, but I think I need to kind of open this a little bit. Maybe I need to open this a little bit to get it out. Yeah, that's the easiest way to get that out. We're going to talk about this trailer in a few minutes. Then we have, I'm just going to bring that back up for now. I'm just going to leave that there for now, even though it's not correct. Taking all of that out of it. If we come down bottom here, a lot of people know this now. Actually, I'm going to take this up and do that. We can slide out this tray. And in this tray, I have even more blast effects, and we can take this out. It is a hard plastic blast effect for the Matrix. Then we have the kind of gloss black smoky blast effects. They come out. This is the bottom of the trailer. We'll just lay that aside for now. There's a Matrix in his chest that is easily forgotten because it comes with the Matrix in the chest. So we have that. But down underneath here we have a sword. It can come out. We'll see all this shortly. And then we can disconnect this and take that off. And even inside, we do have the like double barrel drone thing, which we'll see in a few minutes. But I did want to mention something. So I wondered how this connected. And for anybody not in the know, there's a little spring-loaded piece, black tab right there. And these are spring-loaded and can get out of the way as well. On his spoiler, on the top, there's a little rectangular slot. Basically, you just gently push him in there, and then this will kind of go down into that slot and shockingly holds him fairly securely. The only thing that concerns me is if something happens and this breaks or gets stuck up inside or something, there will be no way to attach this trailer to Rodimus Prime in the future. That is the only connecting point. It's elegant, but I just really hope it's durable, because if it breaks, man, that is going to be sad times. At least with the power of the Primes, as much as it bugs me, there are a number of places where he locks the trailer onto the main car-ish piece. He comes with a huge, gigantic set of instructions that shows an awful lot of stuff. Plus, he comes with an ever-popular collector card. This is Autobot Arc. And if I can get this side to come down. There we go. It's just the Arc into the mountainside. We got this little storage tray, and I mean, you could put the Matrix blast effect there and the smoke blast effects back there. You know, there's a few things that you could put in there if you want. I don't know if the tray is a lot of value, but it is something. Yeah, so he comes with the tray. He also comes with this sword. I've heard it called the Primus sword. I don't know if it is, but I tell you what, It kind of bears a striking resemblance to it, to me, enough that I think I'm going to give it to my version of Prima to hold on to. I like it. A lot of silver paint here, man. A lot of silver paint. Dig it. Oh, we got this blast effect. It goes on over the matrix for when you want the matrix to do matrixy things. Oh, we have these blast effects cast in blue, as well as all these cast in blue. I'm pretty sure that these are the exact same ones that came with Skylynx, or if they're not, they're pretty close to it. Maybe like the ones that came with Omega Supreme, possibly. So all of those, plus 2 of these very glossy black ones that are supposed to mimic, I guess, exhaust, smoke, right? So in terms of accessories, he definitely comes with more than Skylynx had. All Skylynx had were those weird little things that go on his like back legs and a bunch of blast effects. This guy has, you know, a matrix, a couple of like a melee sword thing, a blaster, and a ton of blast effects, and of course the other bits and pieces with his trailer that we're going to see now. I would say that the number of accessories with Rodimus is probably closer to what we got with Jetfire Skyfire. I'm going to take this piece and it slides back in. There's a little lip here on the edge, and we just line that up. And once we have it lined up, it just slides back in, no problem. Now, few things here with this trailer. I have seen promotional images where this piece is left out like this, and I guess you could, but that's not exactly G1 Rodimus, not to me. So for me, I open it up, and I guess I should say this. In package, the way that this was basically like this, right? We have this piece here. I'm going to look at that, and then we're going to go back here to the trailer again in just a moment. Now, I love this little thing because we do have tires here, so it could roll like a mobile tank. It takes blast effects. It can come up, and now it's gone off screen, but you get the idea. It can come up and like move all around and do all of the things and stuff. I like it. I dig it. You'll notice these little pieces too. In package, they're angled back. I find I need to angle them forward when we're dealing with the trailer. Speaking of the trailer, it is chock full of 5mm ports, but they're not all really very usable if you want to close this up and have the drone thing in there. I don't know, his version of roller, basically. Speaking of that drone, we're going to use this peg right here, or peg hold. There's a peg that comes down on the bottom, and it should go in there. It's a bit of a nuisance to get it in there, but that's what secures it in place. I'm going to do that, and then we'll move on. Okay, so now before I kind of go on and do anything else, I do very much want to show how you close this and not have a gap. At least it works for me. 1, you have to make sure that this is pushed all the way down using that peg. 2, these handle things, they need to go put forward. 3, this needs to be brought around and pushed all the way down. There's a little section here, and it looks like it's supposed to lock this in, like a little almost rectangular tab at the back of this that locks it into a little slot right there. Don't do that. Push down past that. Push down, put this all the way down. Then you close these up. When you close these up, you want to make sure that they're coming up right here on the sides and snap them in. Push all of this together and then bring this piece up over as well. Give a squeeze here, give a squeeze up here, give a squeeze here, and at least for me, it's worked so far for closing up and staying nice and solid and closed. Now, I mentioned if you, wanted to use the 5mm pegs, that this was a hindrance. So let's say you want to use it. Let's say you want to put everything in there, but like you still got to now do something with this thing. Well, there's, of course, that peg that I pointed out, and then there's this little strut that will fit down between 2 rectangular grooves right there. So we should be able to, I hope, yeah, take that and put it down there, put that in the little groove, and now we have this thing here, and if you wanted, I mean, you could extend it up and turn it around, and I mean, you can bring it down like that if you want, and I mean, Rodimus Prime's trailer is ready for battle. Very, very versatile piece to go added on here or used by itself. Furthermore, the trailer can actually take blast effects. A couple back here, a couple little blue lads back there, but the smoke one is the interesting one. It has to go positioned one way, this way, because this kind of top section right here is indented a little bit, which is what you need for that right there. There's only one peg right there in the middle section, I suppose, middle pipe, and this should, assuming I can line it up properly, there, go on over like that, if you will. But of course, in the end, we all know that the trailer should look like this for Rodimus Prime. Basically like this, with these two handles up and these side flaps folded out, and this is ready for battle. This is basically as it should go. Some people would fold this whole section down. I kind of like it like this because it makes it a little more busy and defensible. I think this is impressive. I think that this looks really cool. It's armored up for battle. I like it. Of course, that brings us to Rodimus Prime himself. And so here we come to the kind of core of Rodimus Prime himself. Of course, we're able to use the smoke effect, blast effects back here. Now, a couple of things that I just want to note before we move on from the trailer here. First, you may have noticed already that the tires on the trailer and on Rodimus Prime have been filled in with silver. They are just left black. I wish that that silver had been there. However, besides that, when it comes to the trailer, on the outside of the trailer, down near the bottom where we have the orange where the tires are, there's some red there. I'm pretty sure that that red highlight is paint. Also, the orange and yellow and the flame effect that's on the actual trailer itself, I'm pretty sure that's paint or tampo. The silver on the smokestacks, pretty sure all of that is also paint. Plus we have the pistons, and on the drone piece, I think it's made of black plastic, but I think that it's silver paint going out the two barrels when it fades back to black. So kind of a ton of paint there already. Then we get to this guy, and I'll take this off. We already know now how that can go on there. And there's a lot of paint here as well. The spoiler, the yellow, the orange, all paint. All the front here paint. This yellow paint. The orange and yellow on basically his wrists, paint. We have the pipes again, paint. So like there's a lot there, and there's some that we don't even see yet. So far, kind of color me impressed when it comes to that. Like I said, because I think this part is trying to mimic kind of the hot rod look, that's why we have such a big windshield. Really, the red color should come out a little bit further. I think that would have helped the look of the vehicle mode be a little more what we all remember. Let's get into the transformation. I did not like the transformation of Hot Rod because I felt like there was engineering that the thin plastic, I don't know if it will be able to accommodate it in the long term. Like the lower legs, I don't like them at all on the Hot Rod because I'm not confident in them lasting. I did not like all of the hinges being yellow, being wrong color. Let's see if this is better. So we begin by, actually I'm going to begin by, we begin by untabbing that on the side, and we do the same on the other side. We untab that piece. Oh, I guess actually before I untab it, I'm sorry. You already know that the sword could go down here. Actually, it goes down on the leg. There's two little spots on the leg, and that's where the sword is able to go. The blaster is able to store in the side. Should be able to store. Maybe I gotta do it this way. There. Should be able to store on the side right there. The unfortunate thing with this is that it can't stay there when it goes in combined mode, or at least I can't get it to stay there. The clearance just isn't there, so it has to go somewhere else. But it can go here in this mode. So I'm going to take that off again so that we can get into the transformation. For the transformation, we begin by picking this off, and we'll do the same on the other side, and that allows us then to pick up that entire section. We can also now pick up the front section. With all of this off, our life now becomes a lot easier, man. We untab that arm, and we untab that arm. And we can even now pull this, oh, I just opened the section with the matrix, which wasn't exactly what I was looking to do. We should be able now to pull this whole section out, I would think. We'll pull the arms out to the side a bit. There. There. Now we can pull that whole kind of chest section out. I guess while we're at it, we can also flip out these little red pieces and then bring this back up over and rotate the head around. Actually, we gotta flip those little red pieces in. Duh. We're going back from vehicle mode, my mistake. They flip down around the bottom. This flips up, and then we push it into two little tabs there on the side. Boom. Okay, so we got that done. Sorry. This, I guess, can stay up, and all of this can go picked up, and we can now rotate the lower legs around, and I'm actually going to open out the feet, just so we can kind of stabilize ourselves. Obviously, I need to adjust things for the upper body, but now that he's kind of stood up, it'll make showing this and doing this a whole lot easier. Okay, so now that we have this done, this whole section can come down. I'm going to note a couple of things right now. There's a little gray tab basically back here. It will go locked into this gray section. It is pretty darn tight to get that in there. But for now, we take that all the way down and we come to the back here and we take this all the way down. What we should have now is the clearance. I'll put these arms up over because it's the easiest thing to do. We should now have the clearance to rotate this section around. So you kind of have three sections. The under the waist lower body, it rotates around. The upper body, it rotates around. And then where the backpack and kind of the chest is on the center, that's what stays the same. So the top rotates around, the bottom rotates around, the centerpiece sort of stays the same. I hope that makes sense. Then we come to the arms, and the arms are kind of brilliant. We will use this black hinge to bring it down kind of into the armpit, and then we're going to close this gray hinge up on top of it and tab it into a little black tab that's up there. So we bring the arm down really all the way. I'm going to rotate this arm around. And once you have it down here, I find the easiest thing to do is push it in and then push it in. You should hear two snaps. Snap into the body, snap of the gray into the like black peg right there. And we'll bring that down. Come over here and again, angle it down, bring that up, rotate that arm around is the easiest thing to do. And we snap both of them in. Make sure I have both of these in place, which I think I do. Do I have this one in place yet? Okay, I think I got both of them in place. And this is what we have so far. Next, we're going to bring the body up and we're going to put this in here. It is a bit of a pain to do. So we bring the body up, and I like to angle the head back a little bit, but not yet because I want this tabbed in first. Get the shoulders out of the way, bring that through, and now we should be able to bring this gray hinge in here up enough that all of this will tab together. It didn't quite do it. I'm going to get that tab in because it's a little bit of a chore to do, and then we'll go on from there. Okay, so you should be able to see that that's connected in there now. This will rotate around, and there's a double hinge here. You have to bring it down on the second hinge, and then when you bring it up, there's a black tab there that goes into a slot on the translucent windshield. And it tabs the back in. And that's what all of that should look like. All right, now, if you haven't done so, the hips, they push back slightly. There's a slight pull out and a slight push back for the hips. Very, very minor. Then we come to the arms, which we extend out and extend out. By the way, you'll notice that the hinge is red. A lot of people, when I said that the hinge should have been red on the hot rod, said they couldn't do it in red. Red's not strong enough. They done it here in red, so yeah, red's strong enough. They just couldn't have been bothered to do it right. Coming here, we pick this up out of his hand. We rotate it all the way around on his arm. We can begin to fold that and rotate it down. All of this now folds in around the arm. It's pretty ingenious. It's not complex, but what a nice way to beef up the arm as well as like hide some kibble instead of just having it hang there. It becomes part of the arm. I love it. The tire up on the arm here, we open it out and then we push it up, and there's a little rectangular tab that will go into a rectangular slot here on the arm. You just got to find the right way to push it up, and then you push that tire in on the arm like that. Neat little touch. On this side we'll do the exact same thing. We bring that out, we bring this around, we fold this down, and we rotate it down, and then we fold the whole thing under and in on the arm. We open out that section and we bring it in like that. And guess what? That's really the upper body done. By the way, just at an interest sake, here's the matrix that I mentioned earlier. Again, it's like the matrix we've seen all along, and it's all painted and everything very nicely. All of this chest and whatnot, all that painted, man. Even underneath the spoiler, all painted. I dig it. Up here, the shoulder details painted, the face, the head crest, all painted. So there is a lot of paint here, pretty significant. Then we come to the lower body. Let's just, for now, bring the arms up over. And when it comes to the lower body, we want to begin by, you pick off the tire so that you can pick this out, because it is tabbed in there. Pick off the tire, pick this out. Collapse the tire. Collapse the tire. And then we're going to extend the leg a la Combiner Wars. And extend this leg a la Combiner Wars as well. Obviously the guy is tall. I'm just going to readjust things ever so slightly, and then we'll finish off the lower legs. Okay, so here are the lower legs. Now, when it came to Hot Rod, we had a section that all opened to the inside, and then we had to kind of fold the leg up to go to vehicle mode and sort of wrap everything around in a very, I call it, awkward manner. Here, it's redesigned. It's definitely different, but it's still a bit scary, honestly. So we have two hinges over here, and they're both pinned, and there's a little divot here where if you get it just right, you'll push that down past it, and then the tire itself kind of, see if I can show it, kind of comes out in a little hole right here. So now that you have that done, you take this and you should be able to bring it up around, and then it kind of tabs in here on the side. I find that when I do that, it likes to pop out, so like I sort of need to mush the leg around a little bit until it stays tabbed in. Other side, same sort of thing. We open this until the divot's there. It's kind of, it gotta go past the locking point, so it makes me a little unnerved, and where it's all pinned, the plastic still feels a little, I don't know. I hope that it doesn't break from around the pin. That's all I can say. I'm a little nervous when it comes to that. There's also two hinges over here, so you want it out as far as you can get it, and then you want to really fold it in. Oh, it doesn't feel nice doing that one part. Luckily, it's pretty robust, and the tire's out here again, so I don't think it's going to be a huge issue. Not like I feel like it will be with Hot Rod. And that's the lower legs now done, which means, boom, here we have Rodimus Prime in his robot mode, and all the thighs, man, also painted. So there's a ton of paint here. I feel like there's more paint here than there was on Skylynx. I feel like there's probably a similar amount of paint on Jetfire Skyfire. So I feel like, yeah, he's kind of up there with the paint. What about the articulation for the guy? Again, we're going to kind of all do the scores in a moment, don't worry. The articulation for the guy, well, we have a head that can go left, it can go right, it can look up, and if you bring it forward, it can kind of look down. The arm can go up and it can't really go all the way around because of the spoiler, but it could. Like it would be able to if the spoiler wasn't there. We have a double jointed elbow. We have a, I assume we have a, yeah, we have a swivel, like a bicep type of swivel. Not quite a bicep swivel though, it's an interesting one. It's kind of part of the elbow. It's so weird, but it's well done. We have wrist rotation. We have fingers. I think these three are joined, but they seem to have a base pin and then another pin at the first knuckle. The main finger can do everything. It has a base pin by itself. It has another pin. It has three parts to it, like impressive hands. They're gigantic, like they seem almost too big for them, but they're there and impressive. We can stand the guy up as well. We have a waist that goes left and right, maybe hindered by the backpack, but I mean you could definitely get it out of the way. It's going to do what you need it to do. The legs can kick all the way forward. The legs can kick back that far. Again, maybe if you fiddled some stuff you could get further, but that's probably good enough. Hip out to the side. Hip skirts get out of the way, by the way, which is nice. Not full splits, but deep for sure. We do have ankle tilt as well, and forward and back. We do have kind of a deep knee, more than 90 degrees, a little more than 90 degrees, and we do have a thigh swivel that seems like it's built up in the thigh. And this guy seems to be all screws, like not pins. The guy seems to be all screws, which I like. It's very similar to Studio Series 86 Retgar. I like that better than pins. Really, really do. So, what about the scores for this guy? Well, that's a good question, but I thought before I kind of give the scores and see if this guy actually is Commander, we should, by rights, see a couple of comparisons here. To sort of see like how he fits in with a number of things. So first things first. Here's Rodimus Prime next to his arch nemesis, Galvatron. This, of course, being the Kingdom Galvatron. Mine had the issue with the shoulders being misassembled. Our buddy Justin from the 3D corner actually fixed my shoulders, and he done it like lickety split. I was petrified. I don't do popping pins. It's one thing that I'm not willing to do. I'm just not confident with that. But he did, and they're turned around, they're correct now. I have transformed him since. I'm going to tell you now, in terms of functionality, if you're feeling bad, like you're like, mine are the wrong way, don't feel bad. Because it literally changes nothing. Absolutely nothing. It functions the exact same. The transformation is the exact same. Nothing. The only difference is that now the top of his shoulder is rounded. If you kind of don't care about that, and I didn't care about that, cool. The only reason that it's fixed is because I happened to be to his house getting something, and he was like, here man, I'll fix that for you. I was like, cool. It was as simple as that. So, what about this scale? Yeah, Galvatron's a bit bigger. This makes sense to me. Then next we have Optimus Prime, and if anything, the Rodimus is a little bit bigger. Like, they're pretty much on par, but the Rodimus, certainly in terms of like his mass, his bulk, he seems a little bit bigger. And I don't know, man. Here he is with kind of the Season 3 cast. We have Skylynx, we have my Combiner Wars, Ultra Magnus with the KBB, kind of KO of the Perfect Effect Core Fighter, as well as the X2 Toys XT, I think it's 009 upgrade kit. We have Studio Series 86 Cup and Blur, as well as custom versions of their Target Master partners. We have, of course, Rodimus Prime front and center. Next to him is RC, the Generations RC, my preferred RC. In front of her is Firebolt. And next to Firebolt we have Wheelie. Behind Wheelie we have Siege Springer. And behind Springer we have Wrecker. And I don't know if I mentioned Skylynx, but of course, how can you ever forget Skylynx? So, I don't know, like, does this scale seem correct to you? Or, if it's true, what everybody says, that the Commander class Rodimus Prime is a typical Voyager size, then on what planet is Hot Rod a Voyager? Like, every time I try and come up with a justification for that, I don't see it. But, you know what? The case is looking real strong so far for Rodimus Prime. In a nice little twist, since the protoform Optimus Prime was retconned to be a version of Prima, one of the original 13, he is supposed to have that Primus sword, that like Star Sabery type of sword. Honestly, this one works really well for that. If you look at the Covenant of Primus and the artwork for Prima, this is a pretty darn good sword to work with him. So it's going to go with him from here on out, because I personally don't remember Rodimus Prime with a sword. And I'm not into the comics, so it doesn't really work for me. This does. So with all the evidence laid out, what is kind of the final verdict? What is kind of the final score? So, in terms of a look for the guy, it's pretty darn close. Slightly stylized, but pretty darn close. If anything, I feel like the face here is an older Rodimus. Now, he has a scowl on, like, I'm not happy being Rodimus. I want to be the fun boy again. So he doesn't look happy about being Rodimus, but he looks a lot older. There's very slight detailing under his eyes that almost seems like he has bags under his eyes. Like, he's seen some stuff and some things, and he's like, you know, war-worn. War-worn. W-A-R-W-O-R-N. There. And, like, he's seen some things, and he's experienced. He has the feel and the stature of a leader, somebody you want to follow, which I find interesting. We'll get to that in a second. Outside of that, I think the red should probably be a little more maroony, but that's a small kind of price to pay. The yellow is where it should be. The flame detail and the Autobot symbol is where it should be. His headlights going down the body, arguably. His hands should be gray, and they are. The detailing on his forearm and wrist with the orange and yellow is exactly as it should be. The lower legs here are black. Arguably, they should probably be gray. The knee hinge is gray. It should be orange, but I can accept gray because at least that looks metallic. The arms look totally right with red hinges. The robot is pretty darn good, I gotta be honest. Then we get to the trailer. The trailer, mostly accurate from the side. The one place where it's not accurate is the very front. This piece, well, back here that we flip in all the way on the front. Because when we look at that, we have like kind of solid red and a panel of orange. But there should be a lot more interplay of orange and yellow detailing there. So that's just like one minor little gripe. And the wheels, or the hubcaps, whatever you want to call them, they should be silver like I have custom painted. They were left just black. Overall, in terms of a look for the guy, I'm going to say it's a solid 9. You definitely know it's Rodimus Prime. A couple of minor things they could have done for G1 accuracy, but like, come on, it's pretty darn, it's about as good as you're going to get. The only way you're going to get better is if they recast the red in a darker maroon. Then we get to the articulation. It really does everything I could possibly think of that I could possibly want it to do. Right down to everything with the hands. Like, the hands are more complicated on this guy than they are on Jetfire Skyfire. And the hands on Jetfire Skyfire are kind of brilliant. Again, I'm going to have to say 10 for articulation. I really do. Then we get to the transformation. There's a ton of engineering here. But for the most part, it's pretty easy, because when you separate the windshield and the back half of the vehicle, the arms come out. If you get it in your mind that you line everything up with the back of the vehicle and kind of his front and head, because that's the section that doesn't move and you just need to rotate the other things around, then it makes it a lot easier. The fact that his feet can come out and he can stand up while you manipulate a lot of that is very nice. just so you're not trying to hold everything in your hand and manipulate it. You can actually lay it down nice and solid and turn this stuff around, and it's done in such a way where you can almost do it in any order you want as long as you get the hinges out of the way. I also like that we don't have a false chest here. Like with Hot Rod, we have a false chest. With this guy, we don't have a false chest. His chest is the front of the vehicle. Really well done. Transformation 10. Honestly, this is infinitely better than the Hot Rod. Infinitely better. It falls slightly lighter than I'd like for it to for Commander. However, there is a bunch of versatility with the trailer and the accessories with the trailer. A ton of versatility with the drone. The robot has pretty excellent articulation. I don't know if I went through it all. I think I did because we've looked at a lot of stuff here. But it pretty much does everything you'd want it to do. I mean, it'd be nice maybe if the shoulders could go out slightly further than what they are here. But yeah, it gets you what you want. I have to be honest. I think this guy is legitimately Commander class. Barely. Of the three, he's the one who just barely makes Commander class. But there's enough versatility here, and the fact that he is basically almost double the mass of a traditional leader, that, you know what, double the mass, double the price. The bonus is the extra engineering, the extra accessories. Yeah, I think it's Commander class. Overall score for the guy, going to be a solid 9.75 for me. Really, the only criticism that I can actually levy against this, and the only thing that I can actually levy against this, is that I'm concerned about there being only one connection point, and that's spring-loaded for the trailer to the vehicle. It seems solid. I don't see why it would give out on you, but if it does, that would be unfortunate. And I do wish that the red was a little more of a darker maroon. Other than that, this is about as perfect of a Rodimus Prime as you could possibly get. And here we are once again, and here he is. Whew, that was a lot. That was a lot. But yeah, the guy is definitely a Commander class. He is the one that is probably like the most questionable in terms of Commander class. Here's what I think. To kind of put it in like a nutshell. I stand by what I said about the Hot Rod. It's a fine enough Hot Rod. It's a decent Hot Rod. It should have been sold as a deluxe, not a Voyager, because it's not a Voyager. It's as simple as that. I paid a Voyager price. I overpaid. I own that. I suck it up and say I was taken advantage of. I don't justify it. I admit I was taken advantage of. Then we look at this guy in comparison to other Voyagers, and the core bot definitely is a Voyager. In comparison to the Hot Rod, it is significantly larger. It has the mass of a Voyager, it has the paint, the styling of a Voyager. So right away we were starting off with something that is a true blue, a large, imposing Voyager. In terms of all of his bits and pieces, when we look at him next to Skylynx, while Skylynx has more mass, Skylynx has much more simplified engineering and not nearly as much actual paint. It uses a lot more like actual plastic. There is certainly a nice bit of paint on that Skylynx, but not as much as we get here. I feel like the bigger comparison is between this guy and Skyfire / Jetfire. I think the Skyfire Jetfire may be a better bang for your buck because it is more mass and you still have a lot of accessories and there's a ton of paint. However, I do think that this offering is a little more versatile because of all the things you can do with the drone, all the things you can do with the trailer, all the things you can do with him himself. So I feel like he, you know, what he gives up in mass, he certainly makes up for in versatility and accessories and engineering. All three of that, they do help him. Had he been any less mass, I don't think that what we get would have made up for it. The fact that we can look at like an original leader and say that this is pretty much double that, making the price pretty much double a leader price, makes absolute sense. You get pretty much double the product, you're going to pay pretty much double the price. That makes sense to me. He's a commander class, and I think that's going to surprise a lot of people. It surprised me because I did not expect this guy to actually succeed in the trial of Rodimus Prime. But indeed, he does, and may very well be a definitive Rodimus. He will be for me. Let me know what you think about Commander Class Rodimus Prime. I appreciate you guys coming by and giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you if you're in a position to help the channel to grow. You can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we offer to you through Teespring, or of course hit the join button right here on YouTube to become a channel member. While you're at it, hit the subscribe button. Stick around. Have some fun with us here on the channel. Don't forget that somehow, some way, each and every single day, you right there, you do make a difference. And I look forward, baby, to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights at the stop motion premieres or the old fashioned, baby, right here inside the videos.